hail came in at 0317, and for the first 4 seconds I thought it was a ghost. We get artifacts on the overnight watch, relay echoes, calibration pings from survey equipment that hasn't been serviced in decades, old military transponders cycling through their self-test routines on frequencies nobody uses anymore. I've been on the overnight rotation at Orvith 7 Kilo for 6 years, and I know what a ghost sounds like. It sounds like something that isn't quite right in a way you can't immediately name. It has a flatness to it, a lack of biological urgency. This one did not sound like a ghost. It was a full-format emergency hail, Vethani military encoding, Priority 1 crew distress, 17 personnel aboard a patrol cruiser with 3 drives offline and a hull breach sealed on secondary pressure. Ship's name, commander's name, coordinates, casualty summary. The Coalition Sector 11 emergency relay was her intended recipient. She was broadcasting on the correct band for that relay. The problem was that the correct band for Coalition Sector 11 had been our band for 11 years. I pulled the sector registry while the hail was still playing out. The Corridor Management Agreement between Earth's Joint Deep Field Survey Authority and the Coalition's Sector 11 Bureau had been finalized in 2515. The monitoring grid, the frequencies, the relay infrastructure, the listening infrastructure had transferred to our side in 3 phases, the last of which completed in the spring of 2516. The Coalition's Emergency Coordination Office had been notified. The Coalition's Mapping Bureau had been notified. I found the confirmation receipts in the registry without much trouble. There was no record of notification to the Vethani Defense Patrol Command. I read that line twice, then I read the casualty summary again. 17 crew aboard, 3 confirmed injured, 1 in critical condition. Hull breach on the port side sealed with emergency compound at 024-1. Holding but degrading. Primary drive array offline. Secondary drives offline. Tertiary drives offline. She was dead in space 11 light minutes from the nearest Coalition relay. I had about 90 seconds before I needed to do something. What I did in those 90 seconds was open the sector registry, pull the current Coalition Sector 11 emergency coordination frequency, draft a forwarding packet for Commander Dale Sornveth's hail, and cross-reference it against our own nearest available asset list. The tender Hollow Reach was on a resupply loop in Corridor 7, 12 minutes from the Ardent Sorrow's coordinates. She was unarmed, 3 crew, and carrying general format emergency medical stores. I filed the forward to the Coalition relay first. I attached a routing explanation, 2 sentences, plain language, no apology, noting that the Sector 11 monitoring grid had transferred to Earth's authority 11 years prior, and that the hail had been received and logged by Station Orvith 7 Kilo under current corridor management protocols. I marked it Priority 1 and sent it. Then I diverted the Hollow Reach. My authority to do that is a single paragraph in our station's operating charter, Section 14, subsection on unplanned asset diversion for personnel distress events. It does not require command review if the distress is confirmed Priority 1 and the asset is within 30 minutes. The Hollow Reach was 12 minutes out. I logged the diversion at 0319, 2 minutes after the hail came in, and sent the authorization to her captain with a 1-line summary of the situation. Her reply came back in 40 seconds. Understood. En route. I sat with that for a moment. Then I opened a return channel to the Ardent Sorrow and sent her a receipt acknowledgement. Same format as the Coalition's standard confirmation. 2 lines noting that her hail had been received, logged, and that assistance was in transit. I did not explain about the sector handover yet. There was time for that later, and the immediate priority was that she knew someone had heard her. Her acknowledgement came back 8 minutes later, longer than I expected. Commander Veth had received both the Coalition's forwarded confirmation and mine simultaneously, which I gathered from the phrasing, which was careful in the way that phrasing gets when a person is genuinely working to keep their voice level. She confirmed receipt of both acknowledgements. She asked, with what I read as professional restraint, to clarify which authority she was speaking with. I told her. I told her about the Corridor Management Agreement and the monitoring grid transfer. I told her the Coalition's own relief was en route and estimated 2 hours. I told her the Hollow Reach was 7 minutes out. I did not tell her she had hailed the wrong authority. She had hailed the correct sector on the correct band. The sector had simply moved. There was a pause on the channel after that, longer than transmission lag accounted for. When she came back, Commander Veth said only that she understood, and that she would update her comms tables when her comms officer was back on duty. Her comms officer was one of the 3 confirmed injured. The Hollow Reach arrived at 0331. Captain Ren Orvast logged docking at 0334. Transferred emergency medical stores and a medic, and spent the next 40 minutes with the Ardent Sorrow's crew while I sat at my station and filed paperwork and kept the channel open. The critical casualty, an engineering second, hull breach burns, was stabilized with materials from the tender's general medical bay. Not perfectly matched to Vethani physiology, but adequate. The field notes from Orvast's medic used the phrase close enough 3 times, and adequate stabilization once, which in field medic language I have come to understand as a good outcome. The medic also noted, in a margin aside addressed to no one in particular, that the Vethani crew had been on reserve air for 4 hours before the hollow reach arrived, and that nobody had said anything about it on the channel. I had not known about the reserve air. It was not in the original hail. I went back and checked the casualty summary, and it was not there because Commander Veth had not included it, and I spent some time thinking about why a commanding officer in a deteriorating situation would leave that detail out of her Priority 1 distress call, and I did not arrive at an answer that made me feel better about the 11-year registry gap. The Coalition's relief came in at 0532, a full patrol unit, 2 escort vessels, and a mobile medical platform. They had scrambled from their nearest relay station at Priority, which said something about how their system read the hail once the forward reached them, which in turn said something about what Commander Veth's crew had been through before the hail went out. The Coalition Patrol Commander logged the distress as resolved on arrival, which was accurate. The Ardent Sorrow's crew were already stable. The critical casualty had been moved to a stretcher bay and was sleeping. The Coalition Patrol Commander's post-incident note asked why an Earth asset had responded to a Vethani distress call on a Coalition relay band. It was a reasonable question phrased in the tone of a reasonable person trying not to be unreasonable about an answer he suspected he was not going to like. I filed our side of the log and let the records answer it. Commander Veth's incident report, which I received a copy of 3 days later through the Inter-Authority Liaison System, ran to 6 pages. The first 5 were damage assessments, crew medical records, and a technical summary of the drive failure cascade that had put the Ardent Sorrow dead in space at 0241. The 6th page was the incident classification, and the incident classification had a note in the margin that had been redacted in the forwarded copy but not quite completely. I could see the shape of it, the length of the line, the fact that she had written something and then taken it out. The classification itself read, Distress Response, Coordinated, Multi-Authority. Category, Unspecified. There is no existing category in the Vethani Defense Patrol Command's incident taxonomy for a distress hail that is answered correctly by an authority that was never supposed to receive it, who forwards the hail to the correct recipient and also shows up personally. I filed my own report the same morning. It ran to 4 pages. The findings section noted the 11-year gap in Vethani registry notification and recommended that the Corridor Management Agreement's distribution list be audited and updated, with specific attention to military patrol command registries on both sides of the old sector boundary. I marked the recommendation Priority 2, which means it will be reviewed within 90 days. In the notes field, I wrote one additional line. It is not part of the formal recommendation. The Ardent Sorrow's comms tables were correct. She hailed the right sector on the right band. Nobody on her crew did anything wrong. The monitoring grid had simply moved 11 years ago, and nobody had told her, and so her emergency hail landed on a station staffed by a species she had no reason to expect was listening. We were listening because the agreement said we should, and we answered because the charter said we could, and we forwarded the hail because it seemed like the thing to do, and we sent the tender because 12 minutes is 12 minutes and 2 hours is 2 hours, and that arithmetic requires no explanation. The registry notification, as far as I know, has not yet been sent. That is not my department. I have filed the recommendation and noted the gap, and the rest of it sits in someone else's inbox. I check the Sector 11 monitoring logs every morning when I come on shift, just to see what's on the band. Mostly it's quiet. Mostly.